would you say if I told you that there's a relatively cheap ultra wide-angle zoom for Sony's full-frame cameras? This is the Sony E10-18 for Sony's APS-C cameras, but it works uncropped on Sony's full-frame cameras also without too much vignetting. At least between 12mm up to 16mm, kind of depending if you're using active stabilization, since that crops in a bit. Before we get into the technical things, let me show you some sample pictures I've taken with this lens on my A7 IV. I must warn you, some of these images might be perceived very graphical to some viewers, so viewer discretion is very much advised. Enjoy. So, as you can see, this lens in uncropped mode actually works pretty good between the focal lengths 12 and 16mm. It's not the sharpest lens in any stretch of the imagination, and it's not regarded as a very sharp lens even on APS-C cameras. In the middle, I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it works for like social media stuff and stuff like that, but the corners are going to be pretty soft, so keep that in mind if you're considering this lens. Also, the maximum aperture is 4, so don't expect any crazy like blurry backgrounds, even at the minimum focusing distance, which I think is around like 0.3 meters. You can get some blurry backgrounds, but like for normal use like this, you're gonna have like a pretty big depth of field, so it's not a bokeh monster. Let's just leave it at that. The positives with this lens is that you can find it pretty cheap, I think around $400 used, something like that, and it's very light. I'm not sure about the exact gram, so I'm gonna put it like here. Also, since you're getting a pretty heavy vignette at both the widest and the most zoomed in, it's basically only 12mm up to 16mm that are like fully usable, which renders this 12 to 16, like you have 4mm to play with, so it's not much of a zoom lens in that regard. I just want to mention that Tamron have like a competitor to this lens. They're 11 to 20 f2.8. The problem with that, I've tried it, and that have the vignette like through the whole zoom range, so it's basically pointless using that lens on a full frame body unless you're intending to use it in APS-C mode anyway. I just remember that Sony also have their somewhat new 10 to 20 f4 power zoom. I haven't tested that in full frame mode, so I can't say if that is going to work the same as this lens, or if it, like the Tamron, got the vignetting through the whole range. I might test it if I can get my hands on it, but we'll see. So, with all of those words said, is this lens something that you find interesting and would consider using on a full frame body? Personally, it's a bit too wide for me. It's fun for some photographic stuff, but for video, like vlogging and doing videos like this, I still very much prefer my Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8. I think it's a great lens with, you know, the internal zooming and lightweight and all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's a nice lens, but maybe this is something for you. So let me know down in the comments if you find it interesting. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more wacky videos like this, and if you'll do, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Oh, I touched the lens. Look at this. I'm touching the lens now. Look. Hello? Anyone there? This is crazy. I shouldn't be smearing the lens, but look at this. This looks so weird. Dung dung dung. It's like you're a fish in a fishbowl and I'm that annoying kid poking, trying to get your attention. Look at me.